I grew up beside a lake that didn't have a name, at least, not one anyone used. On maps, it was marked as Adler Lake, but nobody around town called it that. It was just a lake. The dark stretch of water behind our house where fog rolled in every evening and swallowed the opposite shore. My grandmother used to tell me never to stare across it after sunset. I always thought that was one of those strange old warnings adults made up to scare children. Then I inherited her house. I was 24 when I moved back. The place sat exactly where I remembered it: gray siding, sagging porch, and a dock that stretched out into black water like a finger pointing nowhere. For the first week, everything felt normal, quiet, lonely, peaceful. Then I noticed the house across the lake. The strange thing wasn't that it existed. The strange thing was that I had never seen it before. The opposite shore was nearly a mile away. Most days, it disappeared behind fog or trees. But one evening, while washing dishes, I glanced through the kitchen window and froze. A light was glowing across the water, warm and yellow, like a lamp. I stood there staring. There was definitely a house. Small, white, 2 stories. How had I never noticed it? I convinced myself it had always been there. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The next night, I looked again. The house was closer. Not much. Just enough that I questioned my memory. I laughed at myself. Distance over water could be deceptive. That had to be it. But the night after that, it was closer again. And the night after that, every evening, the house seemed to move. Slowly, patiently, sliding along the far shoreline toward my side of the lake. I started taking photographs, comparing them, zooming in. The angles changed. The trees behind it changed. The distance absolutely changed. The house was moving. I stopped sleeping well. Every night I wake up and check the window. The lamp across the lake remained lit, watching, waiting. One morning I found muddy footprints on my dock. Small footprints, bare feet. They led halfway down the dock and simply stopped. No return prints, no boat marks, nothing. Just a trail that ended at the water. That night, I locked every door. The lake was completely still. Moonlight reflected across the surface like glass, and the house had moved again. It was halfway across. I could see details now. Peeling paint, broken shutters, a swing hanging motionless from a dead tree. My stomach tightened. I knew that house. Not from memory, not from photograph. I knew it the way you know something from a dream. The shape of it, the porch, the windows. I'd seen it somewhere before. Then I remembered a drawing, one I'd made as a child. I searched through old boxes in the attic until I found it. Crayon on yellow paper, a lake, a dock, my grandmother's house, and across the water, that house. My hands started shaking. The drawing had been made when I was 6, years before I supposedly noticed the place. On the back, in childless handwriting, I'd written, "The house comes closer when it sees you." I didn't remember drawing it. I didn't remember writing it. That night, I left every light in the house on. I sat awake in the living room. Around midnight, fog rolled over the lake. Thick, dense, the opposite shore vanished. For a while, I felt relieved. Then I noticed something. The lamp. It was still visible. The house itself was hidden, but the yellow light remained, closer than it had ever been. I walked onto the porch. The fog drifted around me, cold, silent. The lake had disappeared completely. There was only white mist and that light floating somewhere inside it. I stared for several minutes, then I saw a shape move behind the glowing window. A silhouette. Someone standing inside, looking out, looking directly at me. I stumbled backward into the house and locked the door. I don't remember sleeping. I only remember waking. Morning light poured through the windows. The fog was gone. The lake was calm, and the house sat on my shore. My dog touched its dog, as if they'd always belonged together. I couldn't breathe. The white paint was rotting. The windows were dark. The front door hung slightly open. The distance between us was maybe 30 feet. The lake hadn't changed. Only the house had crossed it. I should have left, packed my car, driven away. Instead, I found myself walking outside, stepping onto the dock, moving toward it. The wood creaked beneath my feet. Every instinct screamed at me to turn around, but something stronger pulled me forward. I reached the opposite dock. The front door stood open. Beyond it was darkness, dust, silence. I stepped inside. The air smelled old, not abandoned old, forgotten old, like a room sealed for decades. The furniture was covered with sheets. The walls were lined with photographs. Every single one showed me at different ages, different years, different birthdays, school pictures, moments I'd never known were photographed. Thousands of them. My chest tightened. I moved deeper into the house and found a staircase. At the top was a single room, a bedroom. Inside stood a bed, a dresser, a mirror, and sitting on the bed was a version of me. She wore my clothes, had my face, my eyes, my scars, everything. She wasn't moving. She was just sitting there, waiting. For a long time, neither of us did anything. Then I noticed something terrible. The room wasn't dusty. The bed wasn't old. Someone had been living here recently. The realization hit me all at once. The photograph, the moving house, the warnings, the feeling of familiarity. The house wasn't coming to me. It had always been mine. The thing on the bed smiled, slowly, patiently, as if it had been waiting years for me to understand. I ran down the stairs, through the front door, across the dock, back toward my house, my real house. Except when I reached it, I stopped. Because it wasn't my house anymore. Across the lake sat the gray home I'd inherited, tiny, distant, on the opposite shore. And for the first time in my life, I couldn't remember which side I'd started on. I still can't. Every morning I wake up in the White House. Every night I see a lamp glowing across the water. And each evening it gets a little closer, a little larger, a little easier to see, waiting patiently for me to realize something. The same thing I think my grandmother realized. The same thing written on the back of that childhood drawing. The house comes closer when it sees you, and once it reaches you, it lets you take its place. You felt it, didn't you? That moment where something changed. You almost heard it. Play it back. It's clearer the second time. You've been listening to Dead Air. If you enjoyed the episode, follow the show. And remember, listen closely. New episodes every week. Good night. You stayed. We knew you would.
Don't turn